I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so glad you're here. I have Raye Hines of the Homebody company. You guys probably know her. She's just got such a fun online presence, and she's the AccuQuilt social media manager. So she puts out a lot of fun content for AccuQuilt. And fun tip, she's going to be at QuiltCon in the AccuQuilt booth. So if you are a fan of her, like I am, we can all go say hi to her. Um, she is also a pattern designer and has a cute blog with fun tutorials, and she has some free patterns on there, but her quilt patterns to purchase are also available on her website. So go check those out. They're so cute. You'll find out in this episode that I was pushing her along with some of her other friends that she has a quilt that she needs to release. So we'll all collectively lovingly nudge her into releasing that pattern in July. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this episode and let's get into it. Hi, Raye. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. This is so fun. My favorite topic to talk about.
Right? I know. I'm like, this is why I have to have a podcast because like I need more people to talk about quilting with. My husband's just like, oh my God. So
Most of my meetings during work are usually around quilting, and those are fun.
yeah. I think it's, when you're talking like business quilting or like around quilting, like businessy wise, it's kind of like, this is okay. Like you're still quilting. But I think like it's the conversations outside of all that that I enjoy the most because you're just like finding things in common with other people. And it's not all about like, okay, how do we promote this business thing? Or how do I like get more sales? Or how do I get more, eyes on this post I just made or whatever? It's just like, let's just shoot the shit. Let's just talk about this thing we love so much. And yeah.
It's definitely more fun in meetings when the conversation is what is the make and take that we do at QuiltCon versus what do we need to post for the upcoming die. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So fun. Well, I mean, before we jump into anything else, I would love to know how you got into the sewing and quilting world in the first place.
yeah, so really this goes back pretty far. I used to spend my afternoons with my grandma after school when my parents were still at work. And she was always sewing. She was making our clothes for the grandkids. She was baking, which was always something I was helping her with, and pretty much just a constant begging of her to let me use her sewing machine. So I always say it was probably like 8 or 10 by the time she let me do that. And I would come home every day with just multiple little tiny pillows because she would let me use her scraps to sew. And then she just had a bunch of polyfill and I would fill them. And I just had a pile of pillows in my room. And so, yeah, that's when it started. I've always just been crafty kid kind of thing. I was in art classes for everything under the sun.
Mhm.
And I just kind of kept with it. I did stop a little in high school because high school, just everything else going on. But in college, I suddenly was like, I need my sewing machine back. And yeah, from then I just haven't really stopped. So almost 20 years, which is really weird to say since I started sewing.
Wow, that's awesome. No, I love that. I've always been a crafty kid too. I just didn't get into sewing until I was like right in my early 30s. So like I knew kind of how to use a sewing machine because my mom's always sewn and like I just
Mhm.
had too much anxiety around breaking her machine or like even she's got like a 1980s all metal Bernina. Like there wasn't going to be anything I could do to break that machine. I just didn't know that. And
I probably should have had a little bit more fear with my grandma's, but I was just sitting at her table buzzing away and just hearing her tell me to slow down.
yeah, right. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So like yeah, I guess because I had a resurgence of like wanting to be crafty all of a sudden. Like my grandma had taught me how to crochet when I was like 10. And then I didn't really pick it back up for a long time until I got to college. And then I was like, I need to crochet again all of a sudden. So like, I don't know, like, did you have like a specific reason that just like sparked it up? Or do you think it's just that like, maybe that like transition in life where you're like, I'm an adult now and I need to like be more self-sufficient? Like, I don't know. What do you think that is?
I think it had partially to do with, so like I always wanted to go to school. I always wanted to have a degree. I went to UT. That was a long time dream. But I didn't want to like move into the corporate world of wearing suits and going to the downtown office all the time.
Hmm.
But I still wanted to own my own business. I still wanted to know about what that was. And I think like as I went through business school, the marketing side, the creative side was where I was, and those were just the skills I already had. I mean, I was painting and coloring, like there was just always happening. And then really I would say what started first was I also crochet and I knit, and that's what kind of like I started doing in college.
Mm.
And then once I got into the crafty side of Instagram and saw everything people were doing, then I like slowly merged over to the quilts and I was like, oh, I could do this too. And
Yeah.
especially once I realized I could design patterns and people would buy them. That was really fun. Because I'm not someone who likes to make other people's patterns, not because I don't like them. I just have too many ideas in my head.
Mm.
So I love that I'm able to take those ideas and use them in my craft.
Okay. Yeah, I just, I don't know what it is. I just feel like there's like this resurgence of like, I need to reinvent myself or like, I need to get back to whatever this
Also
was
probably
like.
was, in high school I had a lot of extracurriculars. I was in all the sports and I was in all of the livestock stuff and everything that you did in our hometown. And then I went to college and I had all my friends and I
Mhm.
still did some like intramural sports stuff. But then as the end was coming, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life now? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Things change so much. And it's like, I think I just like, for me, I got this group of friends and like, I didn't know anybody at the college I went to first, like before I switched. But so I had to find friends. Right. And they were all just like, everybody had different hobbies and just, we all like different things. But, I was like the crafty one in the group as far as like just having more knowledge of crafty stuff and like knowing what to, like this is so stupid, but we started a club called the Dirty 30 Club where we'd grab a 30 pack of Keystone Light, we'd go up in the hills and we would do activities that under 21-year-olds shouldn't be doing, but we wanted shirts with everybody's nicknames on them. So I was like, they're like, how do we gotta like, can we like put names on them? I was like, listen, we're gonna go to Joanne, we're gonna get iron on letters, we're gonna they were like, what? Okay. And so I was like always leading the charge of like our crafty endeavors.
people, even my friends still now are like, hey, so actually one of my friends this week messaged me and was like, do you know how to do this? Because if so, I'm sending you a beanie. He wants to embroider some stuff on a beanie for him. And it's just I've always been that friend too.
Mhm.
They ask one if I know how to do it and two if I already have the supplies, which
Yeah.
as you can see, I have a lot of the supplies. But yeah, no, I was that I had a Cricut in college, and so I was the one where it was like, we want these cute things, and I was like, I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fun. It's like kind of like a power trip almost to be like, I'm the one who knows how to do this.
Yeah,
Like,
whoever thought the crafting would be the one where it's like, I can do this. My
yeah.
little brother can code all day long for his
Mm.
job, and I'm like, do you need a sweater? I could make your sweater.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, and like, even with among my siblings, like, we all ended up doing such different stuff. Like, I was a
Oh yeah.
teacher for a while, and now I've got the quilting business. And like, my sister is a teacher's assistant right now. And like, just kind of didn't really feel like continuing in engineering in college, though. So she's like super good at like math and sciencey stuff. Um, and then my little brother, he's also very technical, which is funny, like that he and my little sister like kind of went that way. And then but my older, he's not older than me, but he's the older of the two brothers. Anyway, he's like just younger than me. Anyway, he went into the military and now he's like, he does like landscaping. So it's just like we all just took very different directions, but in their own ways, they're all still very creative. So it's like kind of funny. Like I think
Yeah.
people think of like, technical degrees or like coding and stuff. And they think, oh, there's no creativity in that. But you're like, actually, there's a lot of creativity in it. It's just a different way. But I'd rather make quilts and sweaters and beanies and crochet stuff. And I don't
Yeah.
know.
He talks about his job, and I'm just like, No, I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's so funny. I know my husband's the same way. Like well, now he's getting a counseling master's, so he'll be a therapist, but he has a math degree and he has a computer science degree. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So it's super funny. But anyway, so I guess, yeah, how far into like your resurgence of sewing in college did you think about starting to design your own patterns, or did you just start right away?
I think I feel like it was like a year or two once I was out that I finally was like, okay, I could sell this and I could design it and like it's fun to show it off. It
Hmm.
definitely didn't happen in college. The
Okay.
idea of starting like a business was absolutely terrifying, even though I knew I wanted to do it. But at the same time, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was probably like a year or two once I had, an adult job and adult money that I could actually live off of and then also put some fun into the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you get your degree in?
Marketing.
Marketing. Okay. So
Yeah.
still kind of in that businessy world of like kind of knowing
Yeah.
how to promote
Marketing.
yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Marketing trends change so much though. And at UT, the marketing degree was very analytical. It
Okay.
was very much on that side of things. So like we were not doing creative things. It was not like designing graphics and that's the design degree. The business
Okay.
school was very much numbers. But I still have marketing by my name, so it's great.
Yeah. Well, I think knowing all the aspects, like, because I think too, like you can design something really beautiful, but if you don't know how it works on the other end, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you do now? So
Yeah.
it's still
You
all
can't put it
important.
out there, all the people see it. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen that easily, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. It's bonkers, but well, that's cool. And so you got a job, you started designing patterns. Were you just like, did you immediately start selling your patterns, or was it like oh, I'm just going to put this out there, see if people like it?
I think I posted for a little while just to kind of post and have fun on social media and see what happened. But then I would say within like a year or two, I had them up for sale. I had, of course, started with Etsy like most do. Um, but yeah, it wasn't too long.
Okay, that's cool. And what was the name of your first pattern?
It's called Wild.
Wild. Okay. I
I
thought,
pretty much just took a bunch of half square triangles and made them all in this design of things with the different solid colors.
yeah, it's really pretty. Like I was, sleuthing and perusing, and it's beautiful. I love it. And I think it's such like half square triangle is just like such a not
Yes.
basic in a bad way, but just like a basic place to start in quilting. And like they have their challenges, right? With the bias and the stretch. And not, if you don't square them, then it's a whole disaster. But
Yeah. Pretty sure I didn't square the first one I made because honestly I didn't know the ins and outs. I was just making triangles. Like that's all I knew. And then once I squared them up, I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense.
yeah. Yeah. I, my first quilts are a disaster, but like, no, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. They're just like some of the seams are popping because I was like, I don't want to like lose fabric to the seam allowance. I want to see the whole print like a noob, like a noob. And so now they're popping apart. But even just like, yeah, not really fully grasping like why it was super necessary to square down. I'm like, well, I'm sewing the dimensions they said it should end up the way it's supposed to. And like,
That doesn't happen,
you know,
unfortunately.
yeah. It wasn't until I finally like I think I made a Moda Love that that pattern they have. And because my friends had got me this like really cute layer cake of like I can't remember what it's called now. It was like back in the day, like 2018. Which feels like a million years ago. Anyway, and I was like, I want to make something so cute with this. I don't want to just sew a bunch of squares together. And I finally like went through and followed the directions and like really like made it to fidelity. And I was like, oh, this is the squarest quilt I've ever made in my life.
I understand. The finished
Yeah.
product I always love, but it's the making myself take the time in between. But yeah, I've tried to just learn to like enjoy the slow, mundane, repetitive stuff, break it up if I have to, use it as like a nighttime, just chill thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like them more at the end whenever I take the time and square up all the seams and press the right way. But in the middle of it, sometimes I just really want the quilt to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, if I have to cut one more tiny little sliver off this triangle, I'm going to lose my mind. But it's okay. I think, yeah, like the end result, knowing that it's going to come out and you're not going to have to fight with the seams to try to get them to line up and all that is like, it's worth it.
That's probably my biggest thing I do that's bad is I'll just be like, just a little stretch. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And that's the thing too with squaring, it still sometimes isn't perfect. So you do have to make allowances here and there and yeah, stretch things a little and maybe squish some fabric in where it shouldn't necessarily go, but it all works out in the end, right?
Probably gonna be the only one that knows that, except for me because I give a quilt and I'm like, oh, and then there's a spot where
Right. I know. I used to like point out all my flaws. Like, I love this quilt, except for this spot and this spot and this spot. And like, I've just, been scolded so many times from other quilters. Like, don't do that. What are you crazy? And I'm like, well, I just don't want people to be sad that there's a mistake in their quilt. And they're like, they're never gonna notice. Like,
they
especially
wouldn't
if
be
they're
on their own anyways.
no,
So
exactly. Unless it's like super glaring and it's like
I
obvious.
hate my seam ripper. Like if I'm just bugged about it, I just rip it and
Hmm.
keep going. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world.
No.
Sometimes it just needs to sit in timeout and I can come back to it. But yeah, I've tried to be better about not hating my seam ripper so that I don't have those feelings over big glaring ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I think too, like it's a practice in like remembering that like nothing's perfect the first time. And like even though you've maybe sewn a million half square triangles or a million blocks, quilt blocks together, there's still room for error every time you make a seam. And so, because it could be the machine, it could be you never know. But just like that practice of like, oops, I made a mistake. I just have to fix it really quick. Like I'd rather fix it in the moment and like take that 30 seconds than have a quilt that I'm not happy with at the end because I didn't take that 30 seconds to fix that seam. So
No, because the end, if you get there and you still hate it, digging it out at that point is not fun.
right, exactly. It's like, yeah, then you're just like, why didn't I just take the time? Lessons, right?
Life lessons in quilting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Do we heed them? Not always. um, okay, so do you sorry. Ugh. So do you still work in marketing? Like, do you have a quote unquote day job, or is it all just you're in the quilting world now? And that's, I mean, I
So
guess you
my
could
day
be
job
marketing.
is quilting role, and it is in marketing. I am the social media manager for AccuQuilt.
Okay.
So I get to mix my passion and my work and also have to draw a hard line sometimes because sometimes I am actually having a really fun day at work and I don't want to stop, but my dog is basically punching me wanting to go outside. So we have to go on our walk. But yes, I do have a day job. I work for AccuQuilt. I work remotely, but I travel. I actually go to Omaha to the office at the end of this month, and then I'll be at QuiltCon for them.
Yay. I'm going to be at QuiltCon, so that'll be fun.
You'll have to come by the booth. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to leave, but I will be in the booth.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I think that's like the fun. I obviously love the quilt show part, like stunning, stunning quilts. I just also love the vendor part because it's like, because of the podcast and because of Instagram and all that, like I have so many connections in the booths. It's like, I want to hang out there because that's where all my friends are.
I partially because I'm working, but also just partially, I like to go to shows for the people. I
Mhm.
don't really look at the quilts.
Really?
I mean, I'll take like a stroll through one morning before it opens or something if I happen to get to the booth early. But I really just, I have so many friends all over the US that it's just so cool to see them at shows and get to hang out. And yes, I'm tired, so it does kind of feel like work, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like work because my friends are coming over to talk and I'm getting to show them the product and just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fun. And I'm excited I've never been to Phoenix either. So like,
No, I haven't been to QuiltCon since 2020. I did not go last year. When I
oh,
was working at AccuQuilt, and just like personally, I never it was in Austin in 2020, and so that's only like an hour from where I live. So it was an easy like one night trip to stay with a friend and go. So yeah, I'm really excited to go this year.
that'll be so cool. Well, yeah, it's exciting and there's so much to see and do. And like, yeah, the booth experience is just something else. Like, I don't know. There's just like an energy and I'm just excited to see just, because like I said, last year was my first time. So just to see like what difference there will be this year and like going and
It is. I do know, like, I at least know this enough that QuiltCon, like, a lot of the booths, you're gonna like it because it changes. Since it
Mhm.
changes location, the vendors really change because it kind of seems like, especially smaller ones, if it's in their area, they do it. But when it changes to the next one next year, like, it's not worth the travel. So
Right.
that will change. I'm really interested to see because so Festival of 2023 was my first festival ever. And
Oh.
I also worked the booth and I set up the booth and I brought stuff because I'm within driving distance. And I was like shell shocked. So many of my friends were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I would like to go home. This is overwhelming. I don't want to do this anymore." Like, I was so overwhelmed in the first 2 days. We had Chris Marchini from Rose City Originals working in the booth with us one day, and he
Uh-huh.
looked over and he's like, "I don't think you're okay." I'm like, "No, Chris, I'm not." Like, I am so overwhelmed and I'm so tired and I'm tired of standing. Like, so
Hmm.
festival this year, way better. Even Chris came up to me and was like, "You look happier." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't feel like I just want to like go hide." So I'm interested
Yeah.
to see QuiltCon because I know it also is just kind of chaos. So I'm bracing myself at least a little more this year than I was for my first festival. So hopefully I
Yeah.
won't. Many of my friends will be there, so they will tell me if I look just as shocked because it's a joke now about how stunned Ray looked when they walked up to the AccuQuilt booth.
Just like deer in headlights, like, what am I doing?
I was just like staring straight ahead the entire show.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I can attest to that feeling of even just as like a show participant, like or just like a I don't know, yeah, like just coming as like a
Yeah. I am glad I've gone to at least one QuiltCon before I go work it versus how
mhm,
festival went, because I do remember walking in 2020 and like I think I knew maybe two people that were going to be there, so I wasn't like alone, and I wasn't scared in that sense. But I just like walked in and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like,
yeah.
that was my first quilt show ever, so I was just
Mm,
like, "This exists? Like, this is so cool. These are my people."
yeah, yeah. I love that. And like I thankfully had some experience with quilt shows just because the local guild I'm in, the Boise Basin Quilters, they put on a huge quilt show every fall. So this is a plug. If anybody wants to send their quilts in this year, check out the website. Because it's a great show. And we have NACQJ judges come and judge the quilts. You can just do exhibition only. But yeah, just having the vendors and like having a big expo building, like that was nice. It's definitely like a fraction of what QuiltCon is, but I've worked it as a guild member and just like so I like know the chaos and like stress of being behind it. And also like my mom and I used to do these like craft bazaars um and make Christmas like stuff out of wood. Like we would make these like wooden snowman heads and like stars, lit up stars and all this stuff. And so we'd do these like Christmas bazaars and they were so busy and crazy. And like so that experience I think kind of helped temper any like too much stress, but also I'm not a vendor at QuiltCon, so I'm not working there. Like I'm just going, but just like because the convention center in Raleigh, like there's like a main floor where you enter, but then like the show floor is like down from that. So you like walk in and you're above everything and you're just like, oh, because you can see everything, the spread of like the quilt shows on the left and the vendors are on the right, and just like the enormity of it all. And I was like, oh my God.
If you've never like been behind the scenes, like even it doesn't have to be quilting, just behind the scenes of a show, like it is, you walk in as just a shopper and you're like, oh, there's so many people here. Like I can't get around to shop. But like the behind the scenes work of it is just that was
Yeah.
my first job at AccuWell. I was the events coordinator. So I was
Okay.
making sure everything was getting shipped from Omaha and showing up where it needed. And it's just wild. The setup part, like these amazing booths, it's exhausting.
Yeah, it takes so much work. And then on top of that, then you have to go stand in that booth for days on end and
Yeah,
be
thankfully,
customer
the
service
side that
Barbie.
AccuWell usually goes yes, I definitely have a customer service voice.
Yeah.
Uh, Thankfully, though, as far as, like, AccuQuilt goes, when we go from the corporate company, we sell, obviously, because we end up talking about the product, but we are on a side that's just made for, like, make and take fun, come
Mhm.
try out the product, but we work with a retailer who does, like, the actual sales of it. So, that is kind of nice that we've never had to, like, worry about cash and carry and worry about checking people out. Like, we literally are just like, "Oh, here's your checkout person, like, we're gonna go
Yeah.
back craft side."
Yeah. No, that's fun. I love that. And the just the idea that there's make and takes is just like such a good time. And that's, I think it's hard too, though, because it's like those areas are always so full
Yes.
that, like, even if you want to, so many people don't get to because it's like a revolving door. And unless you stand there and wait for like a split second when a chair opens up, like it's hard. But
When it's too, we always will just, like, look at each other and we're like, "That was a rush," because it'll be, like, no one. It'll be chill. It's like at festival this year, we were in a different corner from the door, so it was
Mhm.
just kinda, like, chill morning, like, we could actually eat our breakfast, we were waiting, and then all of a sudden, it was like 100 people needed to talk to us at once. It's like, "Whoa," and then they'd all leave, and then there'd be no one. Like, it's so up and down.
It's like waves. Yeah, that's so funny.
Usually
Yeah.
right when you sit down is when they all show up.
Yeah. You're like, "Oh, I can relax." And they're like, "Just kidding. I cannot."
I'm like, "Oh, let's just stand back up. I don't need to feel my feet. It's okay."
Yeah. Yeah. So what is yeah, like what goes into designing or create like coming up with the make and takes? Is there like is it to feature new products for AccuQuilt or um is it just like this would be fun, let's like reintroduce this product?
So we've kind of been taking two routes. A large part is like, what's a new product we can feature? And we just try and focus on a fun an easy, probably no sew project because no one really has the time to sit down and do any actual sewing on a machine. We learned that from Make and Takes. So it has a lot to do with that. But then it also, especially at like QuiltCon and Festival, we're trying to do something that's fun and trendy, um, something that they can actually use versus something they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, I cut this. And then they're going to turn around and throw it away. We want them to keep it and be able to use it in their everyday life. So we have some
Yeah.
two fun ones that we'll be doing in the QuiltCon booth this year.
Okay. Well, you can keep them a secret. We don't have to spoil
One I do
it.
have to keep a secret because the dye's not out yet, but it will be
Ooh.
announced of who it is and all that fun stuff. And then another one, we're just gonna take canvas bags,
Mhm.
like totes or makeup bags, and do some fun iron-on applique with some of our dyes. So we'll have like the letters so you can add your initials. There's a bow dye, which is all because of me. I really like bows right now, so I made sure that one was packed. Um, we have a cute little mushroom. Like it's just going to be a fun embellishment of your bag. So come hang out with me.
Cute. Fun. Yeah, I'm gonna like I'll bust to you early in the morning before it gets too crazy so I can make stuff with you because that sounds like so much
I'll
fun.
just send the message. Booth is clear. Come now.
Yeah. I'll be like, here's my number, text me. Yeah. I I definitely learned like, yeah, like kind of pace yourself, go find spots like, oh, it's lunchtime. Other booths will probably be kind of quiet, like, oh, it's like first thing in the morning. People are probably strolling the quilt show. Like go do stuff then. It's like, I don't know. It's hard
I'll
though.
say we scheduled meet and greets in our booth from like 1 to 3 and like I think 10:30 to noon every day. So those are the most crowded times. of things. Other than that, you're right. People are strolling in, people are eating lunch, or they're heading out. So, maybe eat a late breakfast and come stroll through lunch if you don't want to face too much of the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good plan. And, I think too, it just is what it is. Like people are going to have that same idea. And then so when you think it
Yeah.
might be
In
less
reality,
busy.
way too many people going to QuiltCon. So I don't know if there's going to be a chill moment. Just maybe
Yeah.
prepare yourself. Bring
Yeah.
snacks so that if you're waiting in line, maybe you can snack or a
Yeah.
project.
Honestly, no joke. Like, I think that's just it is like, even if your intention is to space out time, and I think last year in Raleigh was like a good example of that. There were like almost 15,000 people that going through that
I,
quilt show.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it was so crazy. And so like even just at the Ruby Star booth, the line just to shop and not to mention the make and take table because they had different projects every day.
Yeah.
Um the the line just to shop was so long. So, they only had so much room to let you go through. And so it's just like the line was perpetual. There was never not a line unless the show was closed because
I'm
it
about to
was,
go to the show with no plans. Like,
yeah,
besides, you're going to be at the show from the time it opens to the time it ends, and then make plans for afterwards
yeah,
because you really do. And it really is like, it's truly amazing to walk in and see the people you see and the booths you see and the crafts. And you want to be able to just stroll it.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, I think that's a good tip. Like, just like any plans, unless you're like in a class or you have a specific lecture you want to see, um, the rest is just like leave it wide open because you never know what's going to happen.
You're not going to stick to a schedule getting in different booths.
No, no, you're not. You just have to like jump in when you can and see who you see and talk to who you talk to. And there's no like, even when you make plans, it's like they could change at any moment just because there's so much going on and so much stuff to see and so many people to engage with. And it's such a good time. So I'm excited. But okay, so one secret make and take, the embellishment of like a cute canvas bag, which will be so fun. Um, and so you said you went from like doing the events to now you're doing social media management. So obviously you still are going to travel to shows. So is that like does that feel like a huge shift or was it just more a natural progression of where you started or?
It was definitely kind of natural, but at the same time, like the change in responsibilities and what I have to do was pretty large. Events really was solely just the AQS events, QuiltCon, and Houston for Market and Festival. So like I had pretty large, like summer was kind of a break, and I just kind of made sure things were in order and that we didn't need anything replaced. The holidays, very chill. And so then how I kind of turned to the social media side is I was still like posting and I was asked here and there to create content just because I do it personally anyways. And so it was kind of a natural move into that side of things. Um, but there was no longer a summer break and there's no longer winter break because that was the most crazy chaotic time for the end of like Q4 and all of the holiday sales and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot more planning and things like that. But because I've done it for so long, it just feels like second nature. So it's really just creating the content, whereas I don't have to figure out how to create it or where to get the supplies or anything like that.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yes. Plus, having a list of to dos that says make crafty clutch videos today, that's kind of fun. I get to sew.
Yeah. Yeah. And like having a direction of like they have in mind what they want posted out there. You're not having to like create that, which I
Yeah.
think when you're doing it personally. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I have a little bit of direction, but it is just me in social media. So, like, I have a wonderful boss above me who, like, makes the general themes of things. But from there, they're like, have at it, Ray. Like, just make sure maybe these graphics go up. But other than that, so there is still a lot of like figuring it out. She'll tell us what products to focus on, and then I need to like pick out how to do that and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I just mean like in terms of like when I'm doing it for my own business, I'm like, I have to come up with all that by myself. And so when I was working at one of our local quilt shops for a little bit, I was doing some of their socials and, same thing. It was just like so nice to have a list of like, I need social posts for all these made for the next week. And I'm like, perfect.
It
Let me
is nice.
go.
I like to create a lot of the content as much as I can, but also I only have so much space and so much time. So
Mhm.
if it comes down to it, it's like, oh, I have a whole library of photos and videos. Like, let me go see what we already have.
Yeah.
So that is definitely nice because the amount of content I want to create and the amount that I can is not the same.
Yeah. 100% because it takes time. And like, if you want it to be good and meaningful, it's going to take your time. It's going to take your mental energy and, physical energy. And
And everything I create, I edit on my own. So like we have a creative team who will make graphics and who will edit videos and stuff, but I just film it real quick on my phone. It's almost more time to upload it, send it, submit a creative request, tell them what to do. Like, so yeah,
yeah.
sometimes a video can end up taking like my entire day.
Right. Yeah. I think that's hard to hand something over like that too. Cause you're like, you have a specific look or a specific kind of idea in mind. And like, yeah, it takes more work to communicate that to somebody than it is like, I'll just do it really fast.
Yeah, even though fast is like 3 hours later.
Right. Exactly. Like that SpongeBob screen pops up. You're like, where did that come from? Oh my God. That's so funny. Yeah, I think I don't know, like, how do you feel about all the kind of turmoil going on with social media right now?
I'm just hoping we get to whatever it is, January 19th, and TikTok is still around because I finally started to have fun on it. Like,
Me
honestly,
too.
we don't post a terrible amount or too much of amount. Ooh, my words, too much on TikTok for AccuQuilt because it's so video based. Like, we have videos created for the dies here and there and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'll make them sometimes. But some of the trends are a little too cheeky, I feel, to post for a business like AccuQuilt. But I finally like personally started to have fun on it and just making videos. And in my mind, I was just at a sewing retreat and all of us were like, everything is content. Everything is content. Like all of our phones were just constantly set up.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that doesn't go away, but I'm not very confident. So
Yeah. I actually did just see a post from V Sphere. I don't know if you follow them, but it's like her tag is under the desk news. Um and like she and some other content creators because she just like does news on TikTok or whatever. She's been really pushing to get people to like fight it, right? And like anyway, I think President Biden just put out an announcement that like TikTok's not going to go dark on the 19th. Like we're going to do what we can to like keep that from happening. So I'm like, come on, like you can save
it's kind
us.
of funny because I guess we probably started the process in like December, but our CEO wanted us to get onto TikTok Shop for AccuQuilt. And so we were like working and stuff, and like I am one of the younger ones in the company. It's just how it is.
Mhm.
And I very often have to explain a lot of the social media things. And so we have these people setting up TikTok shop who are not on TikTok at all. They don't
Yeah.
really, and I'm like, guys, TikTok's going away. It's like, what are we doing? And they're like, no, we need TikTok shop. I'm like, can we at least wait till after like the end of January? Because if we do all this work and it goes away, like this is just, I don't have time for this right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's so crazy because like all this is happening and I keep getting emails like sign up for TikTok shop. I'm like, honey bug, I'm not going to be able to get onto TikTok in a few days. Like, stop sending me emails. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. And like
Trying to get us to sign up to where they're like, oh, well, we can't put it down now.
right. Yeah, it's crazy. I
I
just hope.
can't make any money from it at the moment. So it's not
Yeah.
gonna like be detrimental. It's just kind of sad because I was starting to actually have fun posting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like had like my personal one, but I had made one for the podcast and like was like had randomly posted a few things, but I was just like, oh, I don't create enough content, whatever. And just was like, I'm just gonna start. Like, who cares? I'm just gonna start. And so I like this fall started posting just like little videos of me doing whatever I'm doing in my studio. I don't like stop and plan something spectacular. I'm just like, oh, I'm working on this thing right now. I'll just like put it up
Yeah.
there really quick. And like,
It's
I
so
went,
casual. That's what I love. Like, I don't feel like I can just post my little casual things on Instagram Reels for some reason. I don't really know why. But
yeah,
yes, I'm like, oh, I'm sewing. So
yeah.
I'm gonna put my phone up.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like TikTok is way more, it's like a conversation versus an interview, right? It's like that's where the kind of more low key, relaxed things can happen. But Reels feels like way more curated. I think because they don't have like the longer form options, like you can only do up to 90 seconds. And so
Yeah.
I think at least with TikTok, like there's that opportunity to do
Feels
more.
like stories to me, like Instagram stories where you're just like casual.
Yeah.
Plus, like I do love posting the quilting and the sewing and stuff, but there's so much more that I want to just like share. So I just like I think I shared myself making dinner the other night on TikTok. Like I want to share everything. I don't want it to just have to be only when I'm quilting and sewing. Also because I go through spells where I like don't do that for months, so I just kind of disappear.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And I don't know, like all the stuff with Meta too. It's like people are exiting, but I'm like, I will not be bullied out of a platform that allows me to do what I do. Like, and I respect the people who feel like they can't stay. And I get that. I just like, I can't leave, like I can't, or
I can't either. Social media at the moment is currently what funds my life. So
right. Like, how else do I get people to know about the podcast? How else do I get people to know about my quilting business? You know what I mean? Like, I have a website, but like I use social media to drive people to my website, like go to the website, because people are on social. So it's like, I don't know. It's such a tough spot. I'm just like so stressed about it. Like every morning, I'm like, is it still there?
I mean, if it disappears, I'm going to be in a pretty bad spot because it'll take away my side job and my full time job. So
Like, so I don't know what I'm doing now.
yeah, I didn't really know what I'm supposed to do.
Mm, that's not going to happen. It's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, so we've talked about AccuQuilt a bunch and like your experience there, social media manager and going to shows. And so we're going to hang out at QuiltCon, which is going to be so fun. But I want to hear more about your patterns because you have quite a few. Do you have a count of how many you
Um,
have?
I think there's 9.
9. Okay. And
It
what,
has been like almost 2 years at this point, I think, since I released one because the mental power that it takes to tell someone how to make something.
right. Yeah. It's crazy. And like just the technical knowledge of like, I mean, obviously, once you get kind of a template and a set, there's like, once
Yeah.
you've written out the instructions to make a half square triangle, you can just like copy and paste. But it's like, how does that
And
fit?
I'm actually a lot worse at that than you think. Thankfully, I have an amazing tech editor. I don't know why. Like, I want them. I want the way that I tell people to do a half square triangle to be the same throughout all of my patterns. But I just like get all nervous when it comes to doing it in the next one. So I have an amazing, amazing tech editor who keeps all of those details for me and puts them together so that I can have a pattern that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think that's great. Like, I love, like, you have to lean into letting other people help you sometimes. And
Yeah.
I'm really bad at being like, I'll just do it myself.
I so very much wanted to have more patterns, and I
Mhm.
was literally stopping myself, like, just because at the end of the day, the brain power it took to write all that down, like, I was just keeping all of these patterns from being which I have one who, if some of my friends watch this, they're gonna tell me that I need to release it, and I haven't done it yet. Um, but yeah, my tech editor, and plus, I used to use pattern testers, which they're amazing, and they were always so helpful, but I felt really bad that I couldn't pay them and
Mm,
like that it was just the pattern. In the beginning, I was just starting at that point, like people just wanted to help. It was really nice. But once I started to actually like have a lot of patterns, have a lot of presents, that doesn't mean I was necessarily making like oodles and oodles of monies off of sales. So I
yeah.
couldn't pay them. But that's when I just decided like I'll switch to a tech editor. I'll make 2 or 3 myself. I'll just be
Mhm.
open to their maybe needing edits, but my tech editor is awesome. So, um, yeah, she's a lifesaver.
Nice. That's so good. Yeah, I think that's hard. And that's like, that was like a hot point for a minute of like, do you compensate testers? Do you not compensate testers? Like, and that like kind of divided some people like camps of like, no, people should just do it because they want to, or like, but I think at the end of the day, it's still somebody's time. And even if they really want to, I think, yeah, like being in a position of like,
Like I was always very clear, like I
yeah,
can't pay. You will have the final version of the pattern. If you want to post, you can. Like, here's a
hmm
template that I'd love your feedback on, but obviously, like I wasn't expecting perfection of them for the
yeah,
information or to post and boost my pattern or anything like that. Like, so
yeah,
I mean, I was even like, if you end up not liking it, it's really bad. Like, don't finish it. Like, it's not your
hmm
job to fix that I made a really awful pattern. Um, but yeah,
sure,
then I just got to a point where I also wanted a standard for myself. And so I was like, I can't demand this of people when I just give them the $12 pattern. So that's when I was like,
right.
go to one person and I'm going to pay her and it's going to be great. And it all happens faster anyway. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I can understand like having testers is great because it's, yeah, other quilters like testing it out and trying it and seeing if it works for them or whatever. But I think you're right. Like having those expectations. But I think that's like as long as you're clear about your expectations and clear about what you can and can't do, and people still make that choice, then that's fine. It's the expectation that like you should just be fine with not being paid.
yes, no,
Like
not
that
that.
mindset, I guess, is like different than being like, I would love to be able to compensate and pay you, but I can't. But if you don't want to participate, that's totally on you. Like just those two.
Well, I think so. Like, and I was honest with this. I tested a few patterns for people in the beginning because I felt at
Mhm.
a true loss of like, how do I even write a pattern? So I was like,
Right.
hey, I'd love to test this for you to understand the process more.
hmm
And so, like, I was all for the free work towards them because seeing how their first draft looked and seeing how they wrote things, like, that was
Yeah.
helpful for me getting into the design side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like, I tested too for a little while when I was still pretty like only 2 or 3 years into quilting. And um it helped me so much just because like I wasn't always the one catching the edits or somebody would catch it before me because I was always kind of like a little bit behind.
Same.
But at the same time, like seeing what people were saying and like going and finding it in the pattern and understanding why they're saying it, like it just really helped me understand quilting on such a different level and like my own, it like increased my own skill base because I was trying quilts that I would have maybe shied away from and been like, oh, that's too hard. I can't do it. But I'm like obsessed with Katerina Rocella. So of course, when she was like, I need testers, I was like, I volunteer as tribute.
Well, and what's wild is like there's no right or wrong way to write out a pattern. Like
No.
everyone does it so differently. Of course, I have my preference now of how I think steps should go and how I think graphs should be shown, but like I don't think I could open a single pattern that would be identical. Have
Right.
I, bought patterns from multiple people? Yes. And I like the way this person wrote how to do a half square triangle. And I like the way this person said to cut your square. Like it's just, it's amazing to me how different you can say the same thing in quilting.
Yeah.
You really learn that through testing, talking with the testers. There were like 2 or 3 testers who they were the most amazing people and so sweet. And they would go back and forth with me on things and talk about it. And I think it was partially just our love of like chatting about quilting and stuff. But the things
Yeah.
I learned from just having the conversations of like, oh, well, why didn't it make sense what I wrote down? And why are you saying it like that? Like it
hmm
all be done so differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great because some ways of describing things resonate with people better than others. And like you can find the people whose like tech language speaks to you in a way, right? Like, or just knowing that there are so many different ways to explain something that when you see it differently, it doesn't throw you like, what are they even asking me to do? Like, you just know, like, oh, I get it. I know what they want because I've done
Oh,
this or seen
I'm like,
this.
goodness, there's pictures.
Yeah. right? Oh my God. There's sometimes I've like gotten a pattern because it's for a client quilt and they're like, I really want this. I'm like, okay. So I get the pattern and there's like no pictures or like no diagrams. I'm like, what are you expecting from me?
That needs a photo. I don't even like, I think my brain just completely doesn't even read. It just looks at the pictures.
Yeah. I'm like, if I can see the pictures, then I can figure out what to do. The rest
And
is
I love to read, but reading directions, no, thank you.
that's different.
Yes.
That's not a winged shadow daddy saving the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, so you have a pattern that you're gonna really soon because your friends are gonna beg you after they hear this, and you're just gonna get it done.
This July because it's a Christmas pattern, and I've always wanted to do it as this big Christmas in July release. But every year July passes, so every year I say I'll do it next year. Um, but yes, some of my friends very kindly bullied me into finishing the quilt top. So it's done. And then one of my other very nice friends helped me quilt it, and I've bound it. Like I used it through the Christmas season. I just have to write the words.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
like,
believe in you.
and my tech editor, even like, I'm pretty sure it's like 3/4 of the way done. It was just like, hey, so like life is kind of crazy right now. I need to pause because I can't get back to you on your feedback or anything. So it's
Yeah.
just, it's waiting. It just has to be done.
Okay, well, I'll be on the lookout in July for that pattern because who doesn't love Christmas in July? I know I do.
Christmas is my favorite.
Me too.
Two of my patterns are already Christmas, and then I'll have this one. And I have mini Christmas. One of my, I think I almost like putting designs on Illustrator more than I actually like physically making them because I have so many, and so many of them are Christmas. If I could just sell that PDF and that just meant people knew how to make it, I'd have like 100 quilts.
Well, there you go. Wouldn't that be so nice?
Yes, so
We're
nice.
like, if you could just figure this out on your own, I designed it.
You put a triangle here and a square here.
Right? Like honestly, some of these like quilty sleuths could figure it out. If they see your picture, they're like, I can figure that out. My mom's like that. I'm just like, how the heck?
It's, I think most of the time people are more paying, like obviously when something's a little more difficult, the configuration, but then if something has templates or you just don't want to figure out the quilt math, that's really what people are paying for in patterns.
Oh yeah,
It's the
really.
hardest to put together. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think people should go out stealing other people's ideas. I'm not condoning that. So don't take my words differently. I'm just saying, like,
please
yeah,
pay for
buy your patterns from just directly from the designer, go to their websites,
they're already
or
too cheap anyways. So
yeah,
we all need to collectively bump up the price.
yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm like $12. Like, I don't know. I know there's like a good range, but and if they're like a more involved, like, have you ever seen the Quiltworks patterns, like the Judy Niemeyer ones that are all paper pieced?
Oh, I kind of stay away from paper piecing.
Yeah, they are so like the patterns themselves are like as thick as a book because it's like all the papers and they're like $100 just for the pattern.
I
Yeah.
want to make $100 that people will pay for.
Right. Like, and then there's classes like people go, they take their pattern and they take their kits of like $400 worth of fabric and they go to classes because there's like, Quiltworks instructors who are really, have taken the courses to be an instructor and like know the patterns really well and help people make these like super intricate detailed and they're, the papers, it's the like that like tissue paper that like clothing patterns come on. So it's like really thin. But anyway, anytime people would like bring those into the quilt shop when I was working there, or like buy the patterns or like come get the kits, I'm like, I mean, may the odds be ever in your favor because holy shit, like they're crazy. Anyway, I don't know why I was saying that.
I don't know if I have that much love for quilting to go that deep into it.
No,
I
it's definitely,
started PP projects all the time, thinking I'm going to be like super dedicated. And for some reason, I get pieces that are like this big to hand sew. And I just have boxes of EPP that I've never.
They're so beautiful. It's like you get this, like, oh, how hard can it be? It's small pieces and you just hand stitch them together.
They get worked on like 7 times a year I get on a plane. That's the extent.
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to travel for work as much, so they're going to get worked on even less.
Right. You're like, so you're a back of the closet project.
I got to think about you.
That's so funny. I started a dish towel, like a hand embroidery dish towel it was at the beginning of December, I think, and I, of course, was like, I'm going to pick this cute little Christmas design and I'm going to get it ready for Christmas. Hilarious. A hilarious joke I played on myself.
I got a needlepoint Christmas ornament and it was my first one. And I was like, I love this. I'm going to share my journey of making this. It's going to be great. I have like this much left. And I just fit in the bag. I work on everything else. I don't work on it.
Yeah. I'm like, I could get that out or I could go do something else. It's fine.
Doom scroll. To work on the projects that I have a pile of.
Right. I'm always like, oh, at the last minute with like client projects, I'm like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. I need to get this quilt done. And I'm like, I 100,000,000% did this to myself by doom scrolling, by thinking of everything else under the sun to do first.
Project that's like due in 3 months.
Right. Exactly. I'm like, I'm not going to work ahead. That's crazy. I was never that kid in school. So why would I start now? It's
do today. That's often my motto, which it shouldn't be, but it is.
I mean,
if I'm not, either do it on the day it's due or do it like 2 months ahead of time. There's like no in between comfortable range for me. I was making a base of February social and I haven't even finalized all the scheduling of January. So I was like, what are you doing, Raye? Stop.
Yeah, I'm honestly the same way. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I'm like scheduling things for like October. And I'm like, but I have a quilt that literally has to be shipped today. And I just started putting the binding on this morning. So whatever, it's fine.
It all gets done.
It does. It does. And I think that's the hard part of like circling all the way back to Etsy. The hard part of like getting custom project clients through Etsy is like once they make that purchase of like, okay, I'm going to purchase this custom thing. It's like you're now on Etsy's timeline. And I'm like, okay, but I traveled for Christmas and then I got sick right after. And so I was like kind of not working for almost a week right after that. And, holidays and whatever. And it's like people don't care. And I'm like, okay, but it's just me. Like, it's just me. So when you're asking me to make you a quilt, it's just me.
I don't do custom stuff for that reason.
Yeah.
I've never found joy in being told what to do in my craft stuff. Like even when it is fun that I get to sew for work, but I try and plan those projects out pretty far ahead because I have to be in the mood to do it. Like on days where I'm not in the mood and I have a list of things that need to be filmed, those are going to be like the worst things that ever go up on social media. So I can't do custom stuff. Like all my friends get baby blankets and all of that thing, but it's never like them handing me the pattern they want. Like I'm like, let me be creative. I need to do it.
Right.
I'll never finish it.
Right. And like if it's a gift, it's like
most of them don't even really know it's coming. Like they know because it's a thing I do, but at the same time they don't know. So I don't take custom. Like if you want something I've finished in your family or friend, then I'll more than likely let you have it, or it just sits in that pile back there in my closet. But yeah, I don't like custom work.
Yeah. I think it's hard because I think like it was a way for like, so when I quit teaching, I like started running the business with my mom full time because she had been kind of running it mostly up until that point. So then when I came in, I was like, we need to get more clients. We need to get more people. So I was like, what if we, instead of only selling like Minky on Etsy, like what if we also have this like custom like order thing where people can like hire us to make quilts. And she was like, okay, like, so I'm the one who pushed that, right? It helped a lot. Like it grew our business like crazy. But that was when there was two of us, right? So now that it's just me, because I like bought my parents out over the summer, it's just a different ball game. Like I have all this long arming piling up, and that's what I really want to be doing. Like that's initially what my business started as, is a long arming business, and that's what I really want to stick with. And so I'm being a lot choosier about the custom projects I'm saying yes to, and giving myself a lot more time to get to them. Like the stuff I'm working on right now is like I'm kind of catching up on my like previous like, oh, I have to keep saying yes to all these projects, and now I'm like, no, I don't. And just because somebody wants a quilt doesn't mean that I have to make it. And
They want it bad enough, they'll wait the timeline too.
right, that's and if I decide that, even if I have the time, I don't know, it's hard. It's like,
A hard balance,
if you want to
especially
pay me,
yes.
like if you want to pay me the $5,000 in labor it would take to make that pattern, I'm all for it. Just know that it's going to take a really long time and it's going to be expensive. And most people are like, no. I'm like, then learn how to sew yourself. Like,
That's honestly probably what turned me off the most to custom stuff, was just like people's realization of, or not having the realization of what it actually cost. Like,
mhm.
they're wanting to pay what would barely even cover the materials. And so it just wasn't fun to like continue having that conversation over and over again. Like, yes, this quilt should be $1,000 for me to make for you. So I don't even list them online anymore, because it was just kind of wasting my time to put them up and not,
Yeah.
I'd rather give them to my family and friends who are like, I saw that quilt you made and I really, really love it. And it's like, it's yours. You want it? Like, it's so fun to walk into my friends' houses and see quilts that I've made and see their kids
Mhm.
enjoying them. So that's much more worth it than trying to convince someone to pay me what it actually is worth.
Right. Yeah. And then because then it's your choice of like who's getting it. It's a there's like nothing behind, there's no expectation that like they're going to give you something back because you gave them a quilt. Like it's just the true act of giving. Whereas like in a business transaction, it's like, you will pay me what I'm worth, what I find my value to be. And if you don't, then we're going to have a problem. It's like, I think, I don't know. It's just tricky and it's hard because it's like sometimes you get into a space where you said yes to something. And like you say, if I stop being in the mood to make that thing, it is like pulling teeth to keep going. And like, and I kind of get that way with some projects. So I'm just like, I'm tired of making this thing. Like, it's not even for me, it's for somebody else. If I'm not enjoying my interaction with the person either, if they're kind of like being demanding or just like not really engaging with me in a way that's like feels respectful, then I'm just like, at what point, it's like after I've purchased the material and I'm like halfway into the quilt, like I can't stop. I can't just be like, I don't want to do this anymore and send them everything. Like, I don't know.
No longer be working together.
Right. Ugh. Yeah. It's hard, but I, I sound complainy, but I think it's just more of a realization that like for my own sanity and like my own time, I just have to have even stronger boundaries with business and like focus on what I really want to do, which is long arming and teaching and like figuring out how I can teach because I don't have a space for it is just that's going to be my next step. Anyway. Um, okay. So new pattern. We're going to look for it in July because Christmas in July. I'm just going to keep putting it out there because I want to see it happen.
Maybe I just need to make a group message with all the people that are currently hounding me to finish it.
Yeah, there you go. Just be like, okay, everybody, we're going to make this happen.
The funniest part was I finished it. I posted it on my stories, like I just posted, I think, a picture of my bed with it on it and didn't like say much. And I posted a picture of the finished quilt top like months and months and months ago. And honestly, like I didn't get that much of a reaction, which is probably just the algorithm. It's not that people hate my work. I have to remind myself of that.
Right.
But when it didn't, it's kind of when I was like, oh, well, I'll just be chill then. Like no one's excited about it. I posted the story and everyone's like, oh my gosh, where's this pattern? Where's this pattern? When are you gonna have this pattern? And I'm like, God dang it, now I have to do it. Like, and I told my friends that, and they're like, we told you. we told you we're going to come sit you down at your table and make you write it. Because two of them came over one Saturday and I was telling them about this pattern and how I had started it and I had gotten the fabrics because I love Rifle Paper Co. holiday fabrics. And so I've had this bundle of them that I've just been holding on to use for
Hmm.
this pattern. And so one of them was like, what do you have left to do to actually start making it? I'm like, well, I need some solids. And she's like, go get your color chips and go get your fabric and we're going to pick solids. And I was like, what? She's like, go get them. And so we're on my table, like spread out with everything, picking the solids. And she's like, all right, now go get your computer and your credit card. I'm like, okay. Like she was like watching me until I did all of this before she left. So shout out to Kate. It finally got started after that moment. But yes.
That's awesome. And like quilty friends are the best, even if they're not that quilty, but they just like push you to do the things that you need to do. Like I think that's the saving grace is like my two best friends, they also quilt. So if I have them to always bounce stuff off of or have them to be like, girl, you're crazy. You are not making that quilt for that person. Or like what's stopping you from da da da? It's like, yeah, pushing you, like just do it. Like just sit down and sew it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Like my quilty, well, and my close friends too, they listen so well to like what I constantly mention, like, oh, it'd be cool. Oh, I want. And they're like, why aren't you Raye? And I'm like, I don't know.
Mm.
It's a lot of pieces. It feels kind of scary. And they're like, well, you won't shut up and stop showing us the different versions of this quilt on your computer. So I think you need to make it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Right. It's like having those people who hear you and can understand you better than like I think we know ourselves, but it's like we also put up these like barriers to like
Oh yeah.
really, really like listening to ourselves. And so when our friends can hear it and go, hey, and you're like, okay, I've just been avoiding it, it's like I've been
For
caught.
that stressful and I don't actually need to work on that project. I should probably do this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Well, I hope it works out and that'll be so cool. And so if um people are hearing you for the first time or meeting you for the first time through the podcast, like how can they find you online?
So I have a website, thehomebodyco.com, and then I'm the Homebody Company on all socials. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, hopefully TikTok. um, but yeah, I'm most active on Instagram. That's where I like to hang out, have fun, share stories, and just, you know, show off what I'm doing, whether it's sewing or what I'm making for dinner.
Perfect. I
My
love
dog,
that.
my dog often. The fact that we have not heard her bark once through all of this makes me wonder what she's doing downstairs. But she's probably just asleep in her fluffy Rifle Paper Co. blanket because she claimed my Christmas gift for my dad as her own. So,
Oh my God.
yes, she makes an appearance quite often. She's my little bestie.
I love that. Yeah. It's like, what is quilting without pets? I don't know. People who don't have pets around while they're quilting, I'm like, what are you even doing? Like my cat, if I set something down, she's immediately like laying on it. I'm
I
like,
was about to say, who doesn't know what it's like to try and lay a quilt on the floor? And suddenly that's when the zoomies hit for my dog. And she's like looking at me on it. And I'm like, get off, please. Just slowly move off. Because if I move towards her, she'll like flail around. And yeah, we just did
mhm.
that. It was great fun.
You're like, okay. You just have to like turn your back and hope for the best.
If I don't look at her, maybe she won't do anything.
Right. Ugh, that's so funny. Yeah, I love it. It's like, yeah, the amount of times I've had to just like redo a layout because my cat just like flew through it. I'm like, okay, but it's
I
fine.
still, it's fine.
Like, how I can't be mad at you. Like, you're just
You don't know.
a
You're
little
just a
ding
dog.
dong. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so the Homebody Company, we're gonna put links in the show notes so that everybody can just get to you in one click if they don't already follow you. And then what like do you have like a tip or piece of advice for any quilters out there or just something that you like is like tried and true for you that you just like live by?
So one thing I think that I always thought was like hard and I was always very amazed by what other people did with it was mixing color. Um,
Mm,
it's something I've been working so hard on just because, one beautiful line of fabric is amazing, but like when you can combine fabrics from different ones, I just think it brings a different thing to a quilt. So
mhm.
here, I'm gonna grab them.
Okay.
I made like a million color chips. of,
Yes.
and this has changed how I can just make combos and how much more I like all of my patterns and fabric choices and stuff. So make color chips. It's worth your time. It did take me a while. This is another thing where my friends were just like, "What are you doing? What?"
Yeah.
On that. I'm like, guys, I have a total of 1,361 fabric chips now, and but it was totally worth it. And
Yeah.
now they all use them, so I think I had a good idea.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's such a good idea. And honestly, like I didn't have any like swatches or anything for the longest time, but then I don't even know. So we have this local business and she specializes in selling solids. And it's not like she has a shop, obviously, but it's not like you can't really go in. Like if she lets me come in if I'm like shopping for a big project so I can like lay out all the fabrics and like actually see them. But until I like found her and shopped there for the first time, like I had no swatch cards. And she has like art gallery solids, pure solids. She has Moda, she has Century solids. I think she just added the 24/7 solids. Like she has everything, plus grunge, plus the Robert Kaufman flannels and canvases. Yeah. And she gets every color of the lines that she carries. So she always has every single color that comes out. Anyway, so when we finally got the color cards for each of those brands, I was like, my whole life changed. And then my friend had made the Moda, the
Yes.
the Moda swatch cards, and she was like, I don't want this anymore. She magnetized them and she's like, I don't want this anymore. Do you want it? And I was like, you're my best friend. And
Yeah,
so she just gave me hers.
I made individual little moda.
Yeah.
I cut the one like everyone does. This is the art. Ooh, this art gallery fabrics. Like it's just, I just wanted to start playing with color more. And I think my other tip to piggyback on that is don't be afraid to play with color. Like people are putting together such amazing, wild combinations of color, and it's just so fun to not
Mhm.
just see like two pinks together and instead you see like a pink and like a chartreuse green. Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
I love all
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
I'm
That's
actually, this one I can tell the secret of. I'm writing a blog for March for Quilt about choosing fabrics. So I'm in the midst of having a lot of fun with color and different prints and all of that. So when they said that topic was free, I was like, oh, me. That needs to be me. I would like to do that.
yeah, that's so exciting and such a fun, like I think you're right. It is such a scary top like part of quilting for some people. They're just like so worried to make a mistake or so worried that they're not going to like the colors. But if you have the color swatches, the little color cards, like and being able to move them around and physically like set colors together.
Colors together makes a world of difference. And then I know, like, personally, I shop online a lot for
Mhm.
fabric because things like Ruby Star and a lot of the art gallery, like, they're not in my local shops. I did just discover I have a local shop full of Liberty and Tilda, though, which is like 5 minutes
Ooh.
from my house, and it is magical. But other than that, everything is pretty much online and it's just hard to see. So that's kind of a bummer. But a lot of the fabric shops, I feel like people like I've talked to friends and just other people on Instagram, and they'll be nervous about like asking a fabric shop about color combos, and they want to help you. Like, I promise, if you
Yeah.
say, find an inspiration picture on Pinterest with a lot of fabric or something or colors, they will help you put together like a magical bundle from everything they have. It could take a
Mhm.
day or two because they got a lot going on, but it never hurts to send the small fabric shops an email.
Right. Yeah. And and I think that's it. Their whole goal is to be there to help you make the stuff you want to make. And so even if you go in person, like I mean, by now my local shops know me because I'm like constantly shopping for job fabric, but and they know I know what I'm doing, which is great. But sometimes I'm like, I can't figure out what to put with this. And they're like, well, have you seen this? And I'm like, where is it? And they'll take me and I'm like, I walked right past that. And so we'll pull stuff and like it's just that those relationships too are so important. And if you have like a favorite online shop, like they know your name, like they know when you've ordered multiple times or like when you're a repeat customer, because it means a lot to small businesses and like that people come back and buy things from you. You're just like, oh my God, you're here again. This is so great, you know? And so if you were to reach out and ask a question and like want their advice, they would probably just like be over the moon. You know, it's like being on the other side of that and like being a small shop owner. It's like when people contact me and they're like, oh my God, I love your quilts so much. Like, can you help me with this problem? Or like, what would you do if this is this? It's like they're not even asking me to make anything for them. They just want my help. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'll help you. Like, that's all I want to do.
I don't think people realize how much we want to talk about that. Like, oh, you want to know how I came up with that I posted? Please ask me. Like, yes, I want to talk about the mindset of it and what led me to it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I love the conversations that come from that. But yes, the fabric shop that I just found with the Liberty and Tilda, this is a baby quilt for one of my best friends, and she had fabric from or I think her grandmother. They found it in her stuff that she wanted
Mhm.
included in her baby's quilt. So I just like walked in and I was like, all right, guys, I need 6 fabrics that go with this. And we had all of them out. Like, if you just speak up, they're usually so helpful. And you're
Mhm.
right, they will find things that you didn't think of because you're just like one track mind.
Mhm. Yeah, and most of those people in the shop, like they they processed through every bolt. They brought it out, they opened it up, they like looked at it on a bigger scale than just like the skinny, bit you see on the
They've
shelf. Like,
already got some for someone else and
mhm.
unraveled. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so they can kind of see things differently. And just having been on both sides, it's like, yes. And anytime people will be like, oh, I need help, I'm like, I got it. I'll help you. Like, let's go. Let's go shop fabric. This is so fun.
Love to talk about what fabrics you should pick.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, well, that's great. That's good advice. And I hope people heed that. Like, play with color. It's a good time. It won't hurt you. Like, and even if you end up not liking the quilt, it's like, okay, now you know what you don't like and give it away and try something new. Like, it's okay. So, it's good. But, well, thank you so much for joining me today, Raye. I've had such a great time talking with you and getting to know you. And I can't wait to meet you actually in person at QuiltCon. That'll be so fun.
Very fun. I'll stick a little the Homebody Company sticker on my name tag so that you can find me easily.
Perfect. I love that. Great. Well, thank you again. And yeah, we will see each other soon. And I can't wait to see your pattern to get released soon and just see all your fun posts on socials.
Yeah, thanks.